Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live. Today we're going to be talking about the Toronto Raptors' direction for the rest of the year. Are they tanking? There was a lot of talk about development, playing youth, planning for next year. Typically the things that people say when they're about to punt the season. But I got news for you. I don't think the Raptors are about to tank. I think they're about to go the completely opposite direction, and I'll tell you why about that. We will definitely listen to what Darko Rajakovic had to say. Some very interesting insights. Also, a very articulate player for the Toronto Raptors, newly signed, Jontae Porter, who's been with the team for a little while now, but has been playing more recently. And I think he had some really interesting things to say. And also, a player after my heart. He also mentioned chess again. He does one chess mention every single media availability, and I appreciate that about him. Also, to those of you who didn't catch the earlier live, yes, I did have an interview with Scotty's trainer, Brian Macon, this morning. It was a super cool 50-minute conversation, which I got to whittle down to about 35 minutes and hopefully get it out tomorrow. I am in the home stretch of, doing all the pen dance planning. So it takes a long time to edit some of these videos, but I'm going to do my best to get it out because the Raptors don't have a game tomorrow. They didn't have a game today. And it feels like these days between these games can be a bit of a pause, but for the Raptors, it's a great thing. They're implementing a whole bunch of new players. And here's a little sneak preview of that conversation that Brian and I had earlier. It's funny. I promise the rest of the conversation was a lot more insightful.
We had a conversation. Context has changed. Team has changed. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you? Congratulations on your success.
As we talked about off air, nothing yet.
I think your temperament is a lot better this year. We like you, and that could be a metric that shows why your channel is growing so much this year because your temperament is so much better.
Okay, so that's definitely coming out tomorrow. I hope. I'm gonna pray. I don't need to pray. I'm just gonna work at it. But absolutely, Paul saying LOL. Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone's noticing the temperament's getting a little bit better. Of course, why wouldn't the temperament get better? Raptors are building around the player that I wanted them to build around for the last 2 years. So, of course, that's funny. Also, before I launch into this live, I just want to say one quick little thing. This is not another exaggerated long thank you for 8,000 subscribers. Yes, our channel is growing. Yes, people are noticing. Yes, people are reaching out suddenly. It's not just the sponsorships. It's just people, like people within the NBA, people within the community who are just like, hey, this seems cool, and you don't seem completely unhinged anymore. That's great. Let's talk. That's been great. I just want to share a little bit about what's been pushing all the content. I saw a comment earlier on the live this morning that said, let's be honest, this is just about the ad revenue. And, it's not, and it is. And I just want to be a little bit transparent about that just before I start. It's usually good to not do these things too early in the video because it usually tanks the video, but I just want to share this to those of you, those of you who know, like my dog is super sick and vet bills are expensive. And so, yes, that is a huge motivation to why I've been pushing out like so much content, and I want to make sure that that's clear. It's not, I don't think I'm spamming anything. I don't think I'm making useless content. I don't think I'm making clickbait. But yeah, it's driven me a lot, and I'm happy that the channel is growing, but yeah, I mean, it's watching him suffer is hard. So knowing that people are supporting the community and supporting the videos is great. I'm glad that a few of them blew up. I'm glad that this has been our best month financially of the year so far and of our channel's history, and that's very important to me because it helps. It helps my dog. So yeah, that's a big part of it. Thank you. Yeah. Anyways, let's move on. So why don't I think the Raptors are going to tank? I mean, obviously they have their 6th, 7th, from the bottom. They're 6th currently, but obviously, the losses count, and they have a tough road to be worse than some of the teams that are going to be tanking around them. And there's also not like a clear path to being a play-in team, right? I mean, the teams that are currently in the play-in picture are teams like Indiana, Chicago, Orlando, Brooklyn. Like these teams are clearly better than the Raptors, right? But I don't necessarily think they're that much better than the Raptors. And I think it is just hard to explain to somebody that a team is good when they're not good. Like, what is this nugget inside this team, Rob, that you see that can spiral off 8 straight wins? Are we crazy here? What are we talking about? And I think it just has a lot to do with what perceptive value leaves versus what perceptive value stays, right? Um, yeah. Um, oh, geez. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate that, Jason. We've been in touch a lot, so thanks. Um, so what I want to say is that, Pascal Siakam going out, this feels like a massive, massive L for your win-loss column. And a lot of people would say that that's true, but analytically speaking, it may not be so true. Pascal Siakam, the player in terms of reputation around the league, and again, I'm going to take a sidebar into Moneyball talk for a second here. We don't always correctly we don't correctly understand like where wins come from in the team dynamic, especially when we start isolating for individuals. Like, for instance, shooting variance plays a huge, huge part. So if you're doing all the right things and you just have like a half season of like abysmal luck shooting, it's certainly possible that you'll lose more games than you should have. Similarly, it's strength of schedule matters, shooting luck matters, health matters. And there's no obvious thing to point to with the Raptors and say, well, that's why they were losing. They were missing that guy in the lineup, or they had a really tough schedule, or they had a ton of road games or whatever. But I do think that the Raptors have had something else that's been, off about this team, which is there is this transit factor where guys don't know that they're supposed to be here, right? They don't know if they're going to be here. And it's unclear whether or not the Raptors are going to clear that up in time to really get some chemistry going. And of course, Darko Rajakovic talked about, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. Of course, Darko Rajakovic talked a lot about implementing new guys, implementing Jontae Porter, implementing, even you consider Grady Dick has been with the team all year, but he's going to have to get a new rhythm. He hasn't played a ton of minutes with these new guys either. Now, he was down in the G League today, had a really interesting performance. I think Javon Freeman Liberty could probably get some run, get some minutes. You're talking about playing all these young guys. And clearly, when you start playing young guys, the writing started gets on the wall of like, okay, they're clearly trying to lose basketball games. But I don't think this team has any incentive to lose, nor do I think they are going to lose a lot of basketball games going forward. There's, of course, the added wrinkle of, okay, well, when Bruce Brown is traded, boom, now you have to implement another guy. Or, if you trade Chris Boucher, boom, there's another guy that you gotta implement. Or if Gary Trent goes out, or if Dennis Schroeder goes out. So it just might be like a little too little too late to save the season, right? But if you looked at some of those charts that I was pointing out a couple of days ago about the shot quality of the Raptors offense in terms of like the quality of looks that they actually generate, it's pretty positive. Like this is a team that if you could just take some of your process and convert it into actual finishing talent, like the team is not bad. I'm just going to download these really quickly, and I think I actually already did. Let me just pull it up here. One sec. So we'll just go over this real quick. There we go. My bad. Sorry, guys. Let me just give me 1 second here. Yeah, so like, I mean, this would be one example of it right here. Like, come on, like half court shot making. You think that's all Pascal Siakam? It's not, right? And in terms of talent and in terms of, finishing ability, like how much worse can it get? Right. That's one way of looking at it. Rim field goal percentage. Let me pull this super chat off oh, thank you so much, Ramsey Bare. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thanks for the amazing content. Hey man, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Um, yes, we are. We are absolutely. Just give me 1 second here. Let me just set the table for a second. So rim shot quality. I mean, again, the Raptors are right up there, right? And you could argue RJ Barrett is a hell of a rim finisher. A lot of this is Scotty. A lot of this is RJ. A lot of this could be Jakob Pertl finishing near the rim. So I don't think that you're losing a lot. And I think like, when the Raptors came out and they blew the doors open on Miami, there was a lot of talk about, okay, well, come on, this is very extenuating circumstances. The coaches, one of his friends just passed away. The team is all amped up. They're feeding off of adrenaline. Surely when teams scout this, when teams, so every time I hear the charge against this team being successful for the next 37, 38 games, I always hear, well, you lose Pascal Siakam, so you've taken all this attention off of Scotty Barnes. And this, of course, would make a lot of sense if Scotty Barnes was not the type of player that I would be worried about getting doubled. And I'm not. I'm not at all worried about him getting doubled because him getting doubled is to his advantage. And to articulate that point more clearly, I'll actually point to something that Caitlin Cooper, someone, that a lot of people are familiar with in this community because of all of her frequent collaborations with the Raptors Republic. Something she mentioned yesterday while watching the Indiana Pacers play against the Denver Nuggets was that, hey, they're doubling Pascal Siakam on the block. The Nuggets are. And the Nuggets, the Indiana Pacers are simply not making shots out of those actions. But why are the Pacers not doing the same thing to Jokic? And to answer that question, of course, you just have to watch a history of teams trying to double Jokic. It's not actually to your advantage to do that too often, unless the shooting talent around him is absolutely crap, because he will just shred you. And I feel that Scotty is, while not anywhere close to Jokic right now, he does have Jokic-ish qualities in that sense that if put in the right positions and if, Emmanuel quickly can start hitting his shots and stuff, I think clearly this team has the talent to rattle off 8 out of 10, And then where are you? Right? So the only thing really that I believe is stopping them at this point is, clearly Jakob Pertl's health. I do believe that that's very important. I think it kind of sucks that Otto Porter's not playing, and I understand maybe for preserving his trade value, making sure he doesn't get an injury, that might be the case that, we're keeping him off the court. But I think he would help you a lot more. But one thing that Darko laid out very clearly during today's media availability was that the priority is the priority, right? So let's take a listen to that media interview. And also they talked to Scotty Barnes and Jontae Porter. And certainly I'll give you my read on what is being said here for sure.
What does it mean to you to be named to that 41-man long list for USA basketball? What would it mean to you to get further along in the process?
It's an honor to be selected with those group of guys. Hopefully I'm able to participate with them this summer. But if not, I'll just hope for it in the future.
You've played for obviously your country at the under-18 levels, other levels. How different is it than the NBA, and what do you like about it?
I would just say, I was younger, so I played for the U15, U16, U19. It was incredible being able to go overseas, just see what the basketball is like, see what the talent it's like, just seeing all the different brands of basketball, how other teams play, and how they, how fundamental they are. It was fun. It was physical. It was a great experience. It's something that I look forward to doing in the future.
Did they give you any indication as to the process of them choosing the 12? Like, is it almost like a tryout type situation, or will you go to camp and find out?
I have no clue.
Scotty, given the newness of the roster, some new guys coming in over the last few weeks, how helpful is it to have 3 days in between games, a couple of practices? Like, is this something that you think you guys need?
Oh, for sure. Just keep getting to know each other, keep running our offense, learn how to play with each other. It's not going to happen overnight. You just got to keep working on it, keep getting through it. It's going to help us.
What have you learned about Emmanuel in his game specifically since he's been here?
Yes, he's been great for us. Teams they have to respect his shooter and how he comes off the screen and have to get over, and he makes those reads out of those screens, in the pocket, in the next action, so you keep going, and then just be able to just make shots and shoot the ball really well. So to attract attention towards that, and him just trying to talk, be a leader out there on the floor as well.
Darko mentioned that kind of called the next couple days training camp the other day. Does it feel like it's starting fresh with some of these guys and having these days off sort of got that training camp feel?
Say it again?
Does this period right now with a couple days off, Darko compared it to training camp, does it feel more like that with so many new guys compared to just a regular practice?
I'm gonna say for me, I feel like these guys, they already know how to play basketball, so they know how to blend in and fit themselves into the system. It's just learning each other's games and going from there.
Scotty, on Friday, it's going to be the last home game before you guys hit the road, before the trade deadline. Is that going to be an advantage being on the road away from some of the noise and being away from Toronto?
I don't think so. I think
That's a terrible
gives
question.
you more of a home advantage. But it's fun playing on the road as well. I don't really think it matters for me. It's fun playing on the road. It's fun playing at home. At this point, what's been happening, I don't think nothing can really take your attention off more than what happened.
What's the biggest challenge that comes with trying to learn your teammates' games while still in season?
It's learning the right way to play. I think last game, we got a little stagnant out there, but just hurrying up, fixing that, getting through it, having that mental toughness and knowing what we need to get to, it helps.
So quick question for the chat, and I wish that I could access YouTube on first of all, Cersei Cats for the super chat, bro. Awesome. Thank you so much. Go team Pinsire, go team, go Raps, go. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. It's very generous of you. I just want to ask this chat a question. Is the current Raptors more talented or less talented than this team? Kyle Lowry. Okay. This is before all-star, superstar, GROAT stuff. This is, was about to be traded for scraps, Iman Shumpert and scraps to the New York Knicks, Kyle Lowry. Jonas Valanciunas, Terrence Ross, Amir Johnson, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Patterson, Gravis Vasquez, John Salmons, Landry Fields, Chuck Hayes. Is the current team RJ Barrett, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley? Just answer it honestly. Like don't lead like with the end in mind. Just if I told you and you didn't know anything about what that team was gonna do, if I told you that team on paper, if you're a fan from 10, 12 years ago, you remember that team, and I was gonna say that team or this team, which team do you think is better? I mean, yeah, the analytical impact of Kyle Lowry was immense and really good. He was like a 2.3, 3.5, 3.5 boxes minus guy at the time. And he certainly like took off. DeMar was an ascending guy, still hella young. He became a much better player later, right? Jonas Valanciunas was a serviceable center with some significant defensive gaps. There was no Serge Ibaka at this point. There was no Norman Powell. There's no OG Anunoby. This is that team ended up winning 47 games, right? And they were completely dead in the water. I'm just saying, what is stopping this team from winning the way that team won? I'm not saying 47 games. You don't need to get 47 games to get to the play-in. You need 37 to 38. 38 will get you to the dance. I think it's possible. It seems impossible right now, but you look at the teams ahead of you. Some of them might drop out. Brooklyn's been in free fall. They may trade a whole bunch of players. Who knows what they get back? I'm just saying it's totally, totally possible.
With my family in Memphis, we got in touch with St. Jude Hospital, Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. And it really touched our hearts to see all, the care that's there for the kids, that all the care is for free for them. and that everything is coming through donations. So it's a good cause, we believe, and it's something that we really are passionate about, and we wanted to collect some resources there and to help hospitals in St. Jude in Memphis, but also sick kids in Toronto and one of the children's hospitals in Serbia. So all the money that we're going to collect this year, we're going to divide between 3 hospitals.
I imagine it wasn't a coincidence that you chose assists to kind of connect with this, right? Like something that you've been emphasizing and kind of a positive stat that.
For sure. I mean, we were thinking about this, and this was the idea from the start of the season. It's just today we're going to pay a visit to the sick kids hospital. It was just good timing to announce it today. But yes, assists are something that they are important on the court, but also off the court. When we're in the position to help others, to help those in need, that's kind of like our civil duty. So we would just like to make a little contribution from our side.
What does it mean to just also, just taking on to that, not just a monetary, but also to spend time in these places and get to know the staff and the kids that you're actually helping? What does that mean to you?
Means so much because you can see what they're really going through. I always say, like, when we're healthy, all of us, we have 1,000 desires, 1,000 things that we would like to happen. When you're sick, you have only one desire, just to get healthy. And to see those families and those kids fighting so bravely, and all the support staff that's there for them day in and day out, it's something that's very, very inspiring, and it's a great cause.
You obviously have a great passion for FIBA basketball. What do you think Scotty will learn being around that American team, even for training camp?
I think being surrounded with the best players on the national team, it just gives you different perspective, how they're working, how they're approaching the preparation for the game. I think that's amazing opportunity. And then playing FIBA international game with rules are a little bit different. You're playing different styles of basketball, different teams. I think it just like pushes you forward to see the game with a different set of eyes, And a good example this year was Anthony Edwards, who played with USA basketball, and he took a lot of positive things with him into this season. And first of all, hope and believe that Scotty is going to make the team and be on the team and take a lot of from there.
But being around those, like the veteran pros for 2 weeks or whatever, you learn, right? You learn how to prepare, you learn how to go through practice. And how important is that for a 23-year-old kid?
For sure, it's a huge importance. Like a lot of times, like young players, they think they have answers for many things, but once they're surrounded with vets and they see how they're operating, how they're working. When you see one Steph Curry, the way he's working, when you see one Kevin Durant, the way he's working, how every rep is so important, how they're taking care of their bodies off the court, it just goes a long way and sets you for a long-term success. Excuse me?
What kind of a communicator is Emmanuel on the court?
In what regard?
Talking on defense, like talking to his teammates, getting things organized.
Yeah, he's still learning. It's hard. It's hard to be a good communicator on defense when you don't really know what to say. So we're really trying to implement those 2 days are kind of like first practices that we're having a long time, to teach those guys where they need to be on the floor, what they need to say, how to communicate. That was a big part of our practice today. And on offensive end is just like recognizing the spacing on the court and how he can get us in offense, and inside the offense how he can get his looks and open shots. So it's a work in progress, but he is very willing actually to say things on the court and to help teammates. He did half-court stuff today with the team. He started running and jumping. He was doing more today. He's still not cleared for full contact. And with him, we're just going to go day by day at this point. Correct. Fitness is a big part of it now, getting his conditioning back and feeling him comfortable. We want to get him in a good spot so he can finish the season healthy.
Can
do you see Jontae's role being for these guys once Yak's back? Like more in the 905 or bench big? And how do you think that'll shake out?
I mean, when Yak is back, I still see Jontae staying with us and getting his development with us as much as possible. I like his game. I think he's a young player with really potential, and definitely we want to give him a chance and a look. We are learning a lot about the team. We're building a new team over here, so we gotta give him a really good look so we know what we have with him.
And coach, just overall, because you said earlier this week that these next 2 days could feel like a training camp potentially. How did today go?
Today was great day. We had our Raptors 60, which is 60 minutes of work before the practice where players are getting on-court work individually. They're getting lift, they're getting treatment. For some of the new guys, that was kind of new. What is this? To have all that kind of structure. So introducing them to that was very important. And also we went practice today. It was around hour 10, hour 15. And we were able to do a lot of stuff offensively and defensively. We played live at the end as well, just to get those guys, acclimated. At this point we have pretty much 5 new players in rotation of 9. Yak did not play whole season. He's playing now. Jontae, RJ, quickly, and now Bruce Brown. There is a lot of people over there. You guys are lucky to have a lot to report on.
What's the balance between making those adjustments for those new talents and understanding their style of play versus incorporating them into a system that's already established?
I think the big picture of where team is going and how we need to develop this team towards the end of this season and into the summer and into the next season, that trumps everything, So if that means we're going to play less zone, so we can get better in our individual defense and really focus on that, then it's going to be that. We're not going to sacrifice anything on our team development and player development. That's the most important thing for us, establishing a chemistry between the players and developing those guys on the court and off the court. That's absolutely priority for us.
Jontae, with all the newness on the roster.
Just to give a pause for a minute from Jontae Porter, who had a lot of really fascinating things to say. Let's talk about those for a second. First, I just want to say thank you to Miriam Booth. Thanks, first of all, for following us on Instagram and always reacting to our stories. That's super cool. And thank you very much for that. Also, thanks for the super chat. And I hope Polo is okay. It is hard to travel with pets and whatnot. I'll update you guys a little bit towards the end. I don't want to spend half the live talking about what's going on with my dog, but I'll update right at the end what's going on with him. But thank you so much for this. And also, Rank Scrub, we need an athletic power forward center who'll help defend the rim. If you caught my earlier live, I did present a whole bunch of options, and this is a quick look at those guys, just for anyone who didn't catch it. So quickly about really what I see with the Raptors culture and, why I think that things are so good and why I think the Raptors have reset this culture and why I think certain things just had to click into place for the Raptors to be successful. So first of all, the Raptors didn't lose any favors with their current locker room by how they handled the trades, right? Now, I don't hope it's not a secret to anybody that the Raptors did not just trade OG and Pascal to the highest bidder, right? There were probably other teams that may have offered something more competitive, but they didn't do that thing that a lot of teams do, which disrupts the locker room. I want to point to a team like the Brooklyn Nets, right? What they did, resting their starters, asking them to sort of fold the game against the Bucks. And what a disastrous consequence that has had and a bleed over that's had to team chemistry, team morale, and ultimately, you got the Nets playing against the Knicks at home, and they got go Knicks, go chance. Now I understand it's Brooklyn, Knicks rule New York. The Knicks are actually really good. OG Anunoby is clamping everybody, getting Defensive Player of the Year buzz. So I fully understand that, but also try to understand this from the human element side. How do you get it back once you lose it? Chemistry is really, really fickle thing. And I think the Raptors have a chance to build good chemistry once they finally clarify who's actually going to be here and who's not. Again, make the move sooner, in my opinion, so that you can start integrating. The second thing that I want to say is that there's a notion of trying to view everything by calendar years, right? I have a habit of actually trying to make pre-New Year's goals. I like to meet the new year as the person I want to be at New Year's or after New Year's. A lot of people set their goals at New Year's. I've done that too. But I have this notion like around November when I'm like, okay, here's my New Year's goal, and I try to go into New Year's. It's a different way of thinking about it. I think the Raptors can look at this the same way. I think they can start to ask themselves, what kind of team do we want to be in training camp next year? Hit reset. And if history has taught me anything, it's that this front office is really bad at calculating stuff sometimes. What do I mean by this? Well, when they tried to tear down the Kyle Lowry, era, trade everybody, whatever, they were trying to tank. Masai Ujiri's been trying to tank forever. That may seem very out of character for a guy who talks about winning. Every single, post game, he talks about winning. But he's been trying to tear this down for a long time. Problem is, when you're successful, as Dwayne Casey says, you tell on yourself. You can't really tear it down because there's too much dollars. There's too much at stake to just become a losing team. And losing has a fundamental impact on valuation, fan interest, etc. It's not always easy to get it back. So the way MLSE looks at this is obviously, if you can win. And it's really difficult to take a 47-win team or a 50-win team or a 55-win team. And maybe you see what they've done in the playoffs and you're just like, this is just not working, and just tear it down. Just be like, nope. The Raptors weren't going to do that. But once you trade Pascal Siakam, just like once you traded Rudy Gay, there's suddenly there's freedom to tank. But if history has taught us anything, it's that this team will go the opposite direction in which they are trying to aim. Last year, they tried to aim for the playoffs, and they missed it, right? Believe it or not, even in the Tampa year, they tried to make the playoffs that year. They just failed. It's weird how often this team goes in the opposite direction of which it is aiming. And so, in a weird way, trading Pascal Siakam and trading OG Anunoby, Masai Ujiri coming out and saying everyone's got to be patient. This isn't going to be a quick fix. Darko Rajakovic is preaching patience, talking about playing the young guys. I got to tell you, it certainly feels like winning is going to take a backseat to development. And I get that, and I fully get that. But also, when winning is going to take a backseat to development, suddenly there's a free flow of the pressure, that day-to-day pressure, that sinking feeling of, oh my God, now we're 13 games under. Oh my God, now we're 14 games under. We were supposed to be better than this. That pressure kind of goes away, and you start to have fun again because the focus shifts, right? And I'm not trying to pseudoscience this, but it's true. It's what you focus on amplifies. If I ask you right now, how many red things in your room, what's red, and you close your eyes and ask you what's blue, you're not going to be able to think of anything. And that's the whole point. The Raptors' entire focus this entire season so far has been, in my opinion, just wrong. They've been trying to implement a new offense, all the while trying to appease, a new system, while trying to also fit in a guy who wasn't really fitting into what they were trying to do. They had a whole bunch of mishmash pieces that weren't supposed to be there. And sort of clearing the deck now and clearing all the pressure and just saying, okay, guys, let's go out there and have fun, which is not exactly what they're saying, but also you got to understand, the system they're putting in place is the system that wins you basketball games, moving the basketball. This entire initiative by Darko Rajakovic and his wife, Dragana, this idea that they were so adamant about passing that they would basically be donating money to children's hospitals in exchange for the Raptors passing, I think it communicates very well who and what Darko Rajakovic is as a basketball man, as a basketball coach, as a teacher. I think the fact that he devotes so much time one-on-one, and we'll hear from Jontae Porter later and talking about how he builds people up, because I think Jontae is a great microcosm for what he's doing with the rest of the team. A lot of guys have talked, You know, certainly in today's interview with Brian, Scotty's trainer, I talked to him about, you know, how great Darko has been and how great Jama has been for Scotty's development. Every player who's on record can tell you that he's just been good for them. And sometimes you don't feel how good it is until the guy goes away. Now everyone's talking about OG Anunoby being, you know, 50, 40, 90. And they're like, where was this with us? And I'm like, well, he did spend like 40, nearly 35 games with this excellent development staff. We sent the New York Knicks, I think, a better player than the guy who entered the season. I was seeing a lot of good stuff from OG Anunoby. Maybe we did. So what I'm saying is, like, you keep building these guys up and then you hit the critical mass. The gap between winning and losing in the NBA is so small. It's like one rebound, one missed shot, one tip, one failed rotation, 1 minute. That's it. That's the difference between winning and losing. Last night, I watched the Denver Nuggets versus the Indiana Pacers. It was a super close game. No Tyrese Halliburton. Jokic was playing. Jamal Murray's playing. Michael Porter Jr. is playing. I swear, Jokic doesn't hit that three. That game is probably leaning Indiana. They were at, you know, I mean, it just, to me, it's like, it's so close. And you know, you read the record, and you think, okay, 11 games below 500. This is a trash team. But try to ask yourself how they've lost these games and who they've lost to. I mean, they've lost to the Detroits, the Memphis. They almost lost to San Antonio. They almost lost to Washington. This, to me, is a team that has massively underperformed. Now, you can say, well, they lost two really great players. They lost Pascal Siakam. They lost OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby, I concede. Very, very, very impactful player. Pascal Siakam, yeah. But I can see a world in which RJ Barrett and Pascal Siakam edges out to, I don't want to say neutral, but like close, at least offensively. Defensively, work in progress. But so far, to me, it's like the spacing that you get on the upgrade from Emmanuel Quickley to from Dennis Schroeder to Emmanuel Quickley in itself creates so many advantages for your offense that basically right now you're just dying on defense. Your offense is working, right? It's been trending up for a while. And there's some very smart people out there who are going to tell you, man, without Siakam, your half-court offense is dead in the water. But I don't think it is. I really think there is going to be a surprise push. And one of the biggest reasons I was such a happy proponent of this trade was because I wanted to test the hypothesis that Scotty could lead an offense, that I felt like he was better than people often gave him credit for. Geez, Larry, thanks a lot, man. So everyone's like really pouring out the love today. Thank you so much, Larry. Yeah, you've actually made my experience with this channel a lot better too, man. And thanks for calling in as often as you have. So specifically to the point of like punting the season, there's no point. To people who want to tank, honestly, the best you're going to do is you're going to have a 50-50 chance at keeping your pick. And okay, fine, you could win the lottery, but I don't think the Raptors are thinking that way. Number one, I don't think they can be that bad. I think the Memphis Grizzlies will beat you for that 6th spot. It would be very hard. But this idea of punting the season, I think this creates the exact counterculture to what you're trying to build. You're trying to build winning habits. You're trying to build positive chemistry going into the summer. The ideal goal for this team would be Grady and RJ and Emmanuel Quickley and Scotty Barnes working together in the gym during the summer. The ideal for this team would be right now, like what Darko mentioned, not doing zone defense, playing man-to-man defense, and working on all these kinks. The ideal goal is that every single player on your roster right now that you intend to keep next year, and maybe even some guys you don't intend to keep, you want them to be 10% better at the end of the season. Now, does that result in winning? Does that result in enough winning to beat out teams like Chicago, Brooklyn? Maybe. It could, right? They're not that far off. Now, obviously, you almost got like blown out by Memphis Grizzlies, so it's really difficult right now for me to say, oh, they're not that far off, and for you to actually take me seriously, like I'm not a crazy person. But removing that pressure from these guys, developing these good habits, coming together, you really have to understand how much focus and chemistry matter in this, right? This is a team that I hope right now, as we speak, at 6:10 p.m., is having a team meeting, hopefully led by one of the players, and is saying, guys, there's one of two ways we can go about this. Let's choose the better way. Let's go out and try to win. Let's go out and be the hardest working team. You know, good habits have a really weird way of giving you good results. You know what I mean? There is a strange, like, I'm trying to find my point as I'm talking, and I'm just like, oh, come on, man, Rob, land this plane, get somewhere here. It starts with like really, really small steps, right? I remember, to give a personal anecdote that may make sense to somebody out there. I remember around March 2020, the whole world shut down, right? That was the global pandemic that we all faced. April 2020, a friend of mine from the hedge fund world reached out to me and said, Rob, we need someone to run stats for this think tank we're doing. We're leading policy in these countries that are trying to weed out like the statistics and how to ensure higher survival rates. And to those of you who live in Canada, you may not realize that a lot of countries were not super well equipped to deal with a pandemic like this, right? So I started to use what I knew, which was I started to use my stats degree and I tried to help. I tried to use data, but often in the context of trying to crunch all the numbers and figure out the data and plot the graphs and try to come up to informed conclusions and spot the patterns and trends, I had to deal with a whole bunch of people that were just way, way smarter than me. Way smarter than me. I'm not a science person. I don't know a lot about this stuff, viruses, and I just don't. And so I had to email so many people in the group asking for clarification on, what does this mean? What does that mean? Can you explain this further? Sometimes I'm Googling stuff. Sometimes I'm reading peer-reviewed articles. And my girlfriend was there with me at the time, and she's like, it's like you're a completely different person for those 3 months. Like your entire focus, things you were talking about, everything changed, right? And at the end of it, it was done. My 3 months were done. I think we did good work. People asked me why I did it. It wasn't for money. It was because at some point I felt in the future my children would ask me what I did during that period of time, just like I'm sure I asked my grandparents what they did during World War II or the Vietnam War. And I just wanted to have a good answer for that. I wanted to have an answer to say, I did something that helped somebody live. And I'm not a doctor, so that was the best thing I could do at the time. And so that conscious, thing, but what I didn't realize was that through those 3 months of being around these super smart people talking about the body all day and talking about how viruses attack the body, that I completely learned like 1,000 things about health that I had just never thought about before. And suddenly I couldn't eat sugar anymore. I didn't want to eat sugar anymore. I wanted to work out more. I wanted, all of these things started to change, and it led to such an infusion of health in my life. It was a completely unintended consequence. Playing together the way Darko has been preaching to play. A lot of people mock it. A lot of people call it like hot potato with the basketball, just passing. They mock the pizza party. They mock the assists. I'm sure some asshole out there in Twitter is going to even mock the donations for the assists, for the children's hospital. But what you're not really realizing is that the culture is changing. Assists, passing the basketball, everyone playing free, everyone playing together, accountability. There is so much accountability across this team. When Scotty doesn't play well, Scotty gets benched. Have you noticed that? Like, if he doesn't play well, he does not play a lot. There's no superstar demanding that he's gonna play 40 minutes a night to chase his stats. Nobody's stat padding here. Nobody. Not Emmanuel Quickly, not RJ Barrett. Everyone's gone. Boom, game plan. You have a complete buy-in on this roster. Make matters better. You have veterans on the team who are echoing the same sentiment. This is a team right now that feels more together than they have in years. Okay, now get the center in the middle back. Stop losing every single rebounding battle and stop getting blitzed in the paint. Is there a chance that this team could be good? Like, I'm not kidding. Like, is there a chance that this team could rattle off 8 wins in 10 games? Maybe it won't happen against the Clippers. The Clippers are freaking awesome. I've watched a ton of that team. But is there enough here to win basketball games on a consistent basis? I hope the men in that locker room know that, in my opinion, there is enough to win in that locker room. I believe that all of this point five preaching, drills, Jama's development, I believe all of this has infused a lot of basketball IQ and good habits into these players. I don't know this for sure, but I can tell you from reading the tea leaves around the team that it seems like practices are a happier place right now. There aren't a lot of people hanging their heads. There's a lot more chatter. There's a lot more communication. If you look at the bench, there's a lot more communication. Even during timeouts, you see there's more engagement. I'm telling you, all of these things are what creates success. And I'll tie it back to something that is from Atomic Habits, which is about the 1%. The 1% better at this, the 1% better at that. You know, sometimes it comes down to something as simple as fixing your sleep by 2%, fixing your diet by 1%. And you would never think that fixing your sleep by 2% and fixing your diet by 1% is going to make your relationship healthier, but it does. You would never think that improving your job satisfaction by 5% or improving your health and fitness or your cardio level by 1% is going to make you, I don't know, a better parent, but it might. And what I'm talking about is it is in the smallest things. It is in the margins. Oak Tree saying margins. Yes, sir. It is in the margins. Defensive communication. Darko has talked all year about a few things. Not boxing out. I believe that one of the largest culprits of not boxing out and not rotating is currently in Indiana. Not to talk shade about that guy, but I didn't like his defense all year. Okay. So that guy's gone. Okay. He was not a bad defender. I just feel like at times, there were times where he would go outside of the offense and defense, and I thought that was hurtful for the team. Once you remove that, okay, you can fix some of those issues. You talk about communication on defense. Guys aren't talking. Well, maybe the 3 days here of practice and all the sample size now that the coaching staff has had to study this team and see where their holes and deficits are, maybe that's enough for them to be like, you know what, this is where we're screwing up. This communication, this pick and roll, how we're switching this is not correct. I need you guys to do this. I think they have plenty of data right now on who these players are and what they can do. I think they have just enough of a sample size to understand what Emmanuel Quickley can and cannot do, what RJ Barrett maybe can do a little bit more than they thought he could when they brought him in from New York. I feel like there's multiple ways, there's different ways to motivate people. You know, you can motivate people with accolades and contracts. You certainly can, right? You can say, you know what, RJ Barrett, I'm going to make you a $50 million player. Are you with me? And he might be with you. You can dangle that carrot for sure. You might say, Scotty Barnes, if you do this, I'm going to make sure you're an all-star this year. You can definitely dangle that carrot, right? I don't think that's the carrot that Darko Rajakovic is dangling. I don't know this for sure, but it doesn't strike me as that's how he motivates. I believe how he's motivating is more so, I want you to be the best basketball player you can be. Is that something that appeals to you? And if you love the game, how could you reject that message? Now, how does he do it? I think he does it like this.
Has this sort of been a helpful stretch with 3 days in between games, a couple practices, a chance to kind of go back to the basics a little bit?
I'd say so for sure. A lot of these guys have referenced it's kind of like a mini training camp in a lot of ways. We have 5 new guys in the rotation, myself included. So with that is going to come a lot of uncertainty, a lot of gelling. It takes time to gel. I mean, most teams, they have a full 6 weeks of training camp to like get together and learn each other's game and all that. We've had 2 days in some instances to incorporate Bruce Brown and all them. So days like today are going to be really helpful for us, and who knows what's going to come with our next slate of games, our next road trip and all that, but I know for one thing, we'll definitely be much better teammates. We'll be sharing the ball, learning each other's tendencies and all that, which typically leads to success.
Kind of one of your longer stretches of steady minutes, steady rotation time, and I'm just wondering kind of what you've learned, what you've picked up, and what you think you need to incorporate.
I'd have to write a book to write down all the things I've learned in this short period of time. Every game, every matchup, it seems like I'm learning something new. A lot of the times it's from mistakes I'm making, which, it sucks to make mistakes, but at the same time, you're learning from those to not make those mistakes again in the future. So every game I'm having a lot of experience, and I'm just happy to be out there, but at the same time, I'm learning so that hopefully the next game out I can do better, eliminate those mistakes, and help our team win. But for the steady minutes and the steady gameplay, it's just a blessing, man. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun to just play basketball.
Like, do you take it to the point where like you're maybe kind of reviewing with a journal, or like just kind of going over film and just kind of trying to cut out repeat mistakes?
For sure, yeah. And I was just getting with Drew, one of our assistant coaches. He shows me all the film every day and points out the mistakes, but also praises me, pats me on the back for what I do well to not kill my confidence all the time. But no, I think I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing my best to go out there and compete, and in the meantime, learning, like I said, from those mistakes, but also leaning on my strengths. And you know, it sucks to be losing, but at the end of the day, we're all getting better, and hopefully those turns into wins really soon.
What's the tougher end to sort of get the habits down correctly?
The tougher end?
Like offense or defense?
Tougher end. Definitely defense. I mean, offense comes naturally, just passing the ball and then knocking down your shots. That's really what I'm asked to do, which I haven't been doing amazing at, but that's just something that, you know, you don't have to think too much about it. Defense is like a game of chess out there, especially with these matchups I'm going against, whether it's Porzingis or Vucevic or every big you play against, you have to do a different coverage and not make mistakes. My leash is a little bit shorter naturally, so I'm always thinking out there, like, don't make that mistake or else you're going to get yanked. I mean, we saw that with the Memphis game, right? So that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's stuff to learn from, but defense is definitely the side of the ball that, though I do some things good naturally, and you know, pick and roll coverage is one of them. You always have to be thinking, like, your mind has to be racing 100% of the time. You can't just like autopilot it out there, or else, you know, you're going to get yanked, whether you're Scotty Barnes or Jontae Porter. So,
what's your biggest takeaway, style of play wise, from this team that is maybe a bit more unique?
Me personally, you're saying, or the team?
Just the team, and then also
the
how
team.
you feel like you can insert yourself.
The team is interesting. Like I said, we haven't had too much time to gel, and there's been a lot of new faces. If you asked me this day one when I got here with Pascal and OG, it'd be a different answer than it is now. So we're still learning those tendencies, and, you know, who demands the ball when there's 5 seconds left on the shot clock, like who's the guy to get it to with the grenade situation. But with this team in general, I think a big, heavy emphasis Darko has put on is just, you know, the .5 basketball, swinging the rock, getting everyone involved is really contagious. I felt that in some games we played where we're winning by a lot of points, where we probably don't have business winning those games, but it's because of the way we play, the way we're getting shooters open, passing the rock, getting everyone involved. It's contagious. It makes everyone happy to be there, and that's the thing we really got to get down. He was emphasizing today. We played a little bit of 5-on-5. Is like get the rock, make a decision. We don't want to take 10 pounds and, you know, hoist up a jumper. That's not the right way to play basketball, especially with the personnel we have on this team. So that's going to be a season-long process, and I know every team kind of puts an emphasis on that .5. It's a, you know, a trendy topic nowadays, but I think that's something that this team in particular can really hammer down on, and that's going to lead to a lot of wins in the future.
Darko has talked about positivity and coming in here this season and instilling confidence in the guys. How has he done that for you?
Yeah, I'm in a tough position as a young guy signing a two-way and then instantly kind of being brought up in the rotation. It comes with a lot of nerves, and I think I'm naturally a little bit more nervous of a guy, you know, before going into a game. Like, there's just a lot of nerves, you're shaking a little bit. So I think it was really important for me and my confidence to have a coach like him who's constantly pulling you aside, sharing what he sees, sharing how you can be better. Even after practice, before he came over here and talked to you guys, after practice before he came over and talked to you guys, he pulled me aside and just shared a couple tips on defense. Like, if it's 1 through 5 red and we're switching and I'm on a guard, the right footwork when a guard tries to blow by you, which happened a couple times, I think, in the Chicago game, which is why I got yanked in the fourth quarter. So things like that, I'm just super appreciative of, that he's not just throwing me out there with the Sharks and just, like, you know, hoping I don't sink, but he's helping me actively swim. He's teaching me new things every day, along with the rest of the coaching staff. That's going to lead to a lot of success in the future, not only for our team, but hopefully for myself. So he's been awesome through and through.
You've gotten this opportunity to start with Yak out, and you've talked a lot about your history in the game, growing up, playing with some really good players and learning to complement those really good players. Has that kind of helped prepare you in a sense? Has it made it a bit of a natural fit to play with some of these guys in the starting lineup?
For sure, yeah. And just, you know, I first got here and I wasn't playing, just watching these guys, watching how Yak is a good connector, and he doesn't demand shots. You know, it comes to him. Sometimes he'll shoot 10 shots a game, sometimes he'll shoot 2. It just depends on the matchup and what's going on. That's kind of the same role I'm in, and obviously our games are a lot different. I kind of stretch the floor. He's more of an interior guy, but I think he does a tremendous job at knowing his role as a big man and really excelling at it, and that's something I admire. So our games couldn't be further from each other's, I guess, in a sense, but looking to him especially, as well as the vets, Garrett and Thad, and them kind of just teaching me along the way, has really helped prepare me to kind of be in the starting lineup. And who knows what the future holds minutes-wise, but whenever I'm out there, I know I'll be better prepared than I would be without these guys at my side.
I know you took pride in your passing. Has watching Thad been sort of even more instructive, given how quickly you can move the
basketball from the
Yeah, for sure. It's been a bit surprising, actually. I wasn't too familiar with this game. I mean, obviously, like I grew up, I was a baby, and he was probably playing in the NBA. But I never really studied his game. Yeah, Darko literally calls me Thad Jr. because he says he should be my dad. The way we're both lefties, and he's been 30 years older than me. But we both pass the ball and kind of under the rim players. But yeah, watching him, just the way he threads the needle, pretty much every time it's open. Not only encourages the guys to do more cuts, which helps me, but it kind of just shows, similar to football, you have quarterbacks like Mahomes that are just like gunslingers and they aren't afraid to make mistakes. I think Dad really takes that characteristics where it's like he's going to make risky passes, and you kind of have to be considered a really good passer. Jokic, Luka, all them make behind the back passes and all that stuff, and it's risky, sure, but if you're going to be a good passer, you have to be willing to take risks, and that's something I'm going to have to do as a two-way player being kind of put in this lineup. I'm going to have to take risks, and luckily I have coaching staff that believes in me and is going to let me make some mistakes. But that in particular, the way he passes the ball, and I try to model that a little bit, and even if that comes with the turnover.
Someone already asked us. I was finishing up with Coach, but Darko was saying just now to us that he imagines that you're going to stay with this team, continue to practice and learn when Yak comes back. What do you hope your role will be on this team going forward, and what do you hope to continue to learn?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought too much in the future. I'm kind of taking it day by day at this point, and like you said, like Yak's about to come back. Who knows what my role will diminish to or grow into eventually? I don't know. But every day that I'm, assigned to the Raptors as a two-way, I'm going to try to learn. And whether I'm with the play groups or I'm in the starting group, like I'm going to try to learn from these guys because literally all of them, have more experience than me in the NBA. So. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really have any expectations or hopes as it pertains to minutes played or whatever, but as long as I'm continually getting better so that when my time eventually does come to kind of step into a bigger role, I'm ready for it and ready to excel. So.
Yeah. Okay. So quick little note. I love Jontae Porter. He's just a person after my heart. Like literally, if I was a basketball player, I would probably approach every single question exactly the way he does. Remarkable candor, remarkable self-awareness. I was literally talking with my girlfriend about this yesterday. It's like if you don't have self-awareness, you pretty much have nothing. It doesn't matter that you work hard. If you can't, we were specifically talking about Scotty and how I thought and knew that he was going to be successful, right? And one of the reasons that I thought and knew that he was going to be successful is that in grade 11, I remember watching an interview with him in which every weakness that I saw in his game, when asked, was a weakness that he saw in his own game. He didn't come out and say, I'm this, I'm that, I'm great at this, I'm great at that. He was actually pretty clear about who he was as a basketball player. That is rare, very rare. Almost every young hooper, and these guys are very, very confident people in general. Like Jontae Porter may seem like, he's a little bit timid and shy and all that stuff. And, maybe some people might criticize that, but I assure you, he is a considerably more confident human being than the average person. And I was working on a Jontae Porter video that may or may not come out at some point, maybe next month or something. I don't know. We'll see. There's nothing pressing about it, but there's a lot of history about this guy, and what an interesting guy. And I just want to say, like, you get good people in a room and good things start to happen, right? But to the point of like how I knew Scotty would be successful, it's just the self-awareness, right? You get people who understand who they are as basketball players. It makes it much easier to coach them because the things that you're seeing as weaknesses, they're also seeing as weaknesses. And that helps, right? There's a comment here. First of all, quick little thing here. This is absolutely humbling. But BK here saying, I've been here from the beginning, Rob, and it's great to see your channel getting positive support from knowledgeable basketballers. Good luck with your pup as well as your film festival. Thank you very much. Yes. And yes, right after I do this live, I got to go right into Pandan stuff. So thank you so much for that. And Myth RN Deer, take care of that pup, man. Thank you very much for that. And I hope RJ breaks out with us. To the note of RJ breaking out with us, observe. So take a look at RJ Barrett's stats with the Toronto Raptors. If you see it right here, I wish I could make this a little bit bigger for you. Could I make this bigger for you? I might be able to. Hang on. Chrome. How do you zoom in Chrome? Is this one of those Rob is not very technically savvy things? Hang on. Okay. I don't know if that worked, but did it work? Did it not work? Have I totally screwed myself over here? Okay. We will try. We will try to make it a little bit smaller. I want to respect people who are on their mobile app or whatever, but let me try to make it a little bit smaller and boom. Okay. So if you can see this, I hope you can, right? I mean, just check out RJ's numbers with the Raptors, right? I mean, we are seeing positive box plus minus for, guess what? The first time in his career at the age of 23. But worth noting also, like many years have passed since RJ came into the league, right? So we had rookie year, negative 4.3, second year, negative 1.2, then third year and fourth year were a bit of a regression. Like both kind of like if you drew a line for RJ, it was kind of like, right? So now 0.7 is incredible. And honestly, a 1.6 offensive boxes minus is a career high as well. Weirdly enough, negative 0.9 defensive boxes minus is the second highest mark he's posted in his career. He's on track for a career high in valuable replacement. He is definitely hitting a career high in win shares per 48. He's already registered one win share with the Raptors. He is having the lowest usage season of his career apart from his second year. He's doing it on less usage at 23.4%. If you look at his at rim percentages and everything, it's been better. His 3-point percentage is, where is he? So true shooting percentage, 63% true shooting. That's also a career high. Take a look here. 37.5% from three is decent. Per 100 possessions, he is taking fewer threes here than almost any year in his career. So there's a lot more downhill attacking in transition. And obviously transition, Darko is like, hey man, hey, RJ, your career has not turned out to date. Do you want to play basketball in a way that players like you are built to play basketball? Hell yes, right? So any smart person who's watched RJ Barrett long enough in New York knows that he needed an offense like this to thrive. And clearly so did the Raptors. They took the contract and said, okay, toxic asset, bet, right? Free throw percentage has been down, but honestly, like 66%, that's like, I mean, that's probably small sample size, but let's hope that gets better. But he's been he's been trending up as a free throw shooter, right? So like with New York this past year, he was an 83% free throw shooter. I expect that to get better. Per 100 possessions, he's never rebounded better. This is the tops. Like, do you realize per 100 possessions, this guy's putting up 30, 10, and 5? That's crazy. That is legit crazy. It's been awesome. Like RJ Barrett has been incredible for the Raptors, right? I already talked about Emmanuel Quickly's analytics profile and said how it's much, much closer to his second year as well. Let me give you the opposite end of this. And this is going to paint a very, very good picture, in my opinion, of what I call the Darko/Jama effect. Take a look at Pascal Siakam's Indiana versus Toronto splits. It's exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. Take a look. Where are we here? He's gone from positive 1.4 boxes minus to negative 0.9. He is posting career lows at the career low in win shares per 48. He has registered 0.1 win shares in he has not blocked a single shot. He has a 0% block percentage. His assist percentage is down from all these previous years. And worth noting, 2 of these games have been without Tyrese Halliburton. They've been relying on him to be more of the man, and it hasn't necessarily worked out as well as they would have liked it to. His rebound percentage is a little bit higher than it was in Toronto. But overall, his impact metrics are terrible. He is posting a career low since his rookie season. He has not shot so poorly from the field. Now, granted, everyone's going to say 3 games. 3 games? Yes, I get it. But look, man, like 3 games are 3 games. You know what I mean? Like RJ was better in his first 3 games with the Toronto Raptors than Pascal has been with his 3 games there. So I'm just saying, like, Jacob Isaac's small sample size, 100%. It's a very, very, very small sample size. And I do not believe this is going to be an indication of how he's going to play for the rest of the year. But it might be some indication of how he's going to play for the rest of the year. which is what I'm saying is I'm not expecting him to suddenly beat his Toronto production in Indiana, right? Even with much, much more talented, shooters around him and all that stuff, and better spacing and better pacing and whatever. I think there's a very good chance that, and I mean, by the way, this is with him super hard trying. Okay, like he's flashing positive defensive box plus minus for the first time in a couple years now, because he's been negative defensive box plus minus for a few years there with the Raptors. But here he's positive. He's been much better defensively, and you don't need analytics to tell you Pascal Siakam's been better defensively for the Indiana Pacers. All you have to do is watch the games. He's communicating better. He's actually like rotating. He's contesting shots. He's like really trying to move his feet east west on the perimeter. He's been good defensively, like better than the player I saw in Toronto. Not great, but good. And I just think it's offense that's struggling. Anyways, my point is Darko's system creates easier offense. I believe that is a good pitch for players to come here and play with this team, right? Abu saying I'm excited about that Indiana pick. I mean, sure, maybe. It could turn out to the 14th, 13th pick. Who knows? Like, let's see if they miss the playoffs. That would be crazy, but the larger point of this is that I think the Raptors are building great habits. I believe great habits have a weird way of potentially turning into the types of results you actually want to see as a basketball team. I think there are a lot of positive things that the Toronto Raptors have done this year from a locker room standpoint, from implementing and changing some of the culture. I think from changing and shifting some of the focus that might have been there, like in terms of all the, stat padding, there's a lot of guys in contract years or whatever. So I just think like changing the conversation, and ultimately when you remove a top guy, like when you remove a couple top dogs from the pecking order, you leave a vacuum for someone else to rise into that space, right? Like when a president is shot, the country doesn't just go rudderless. Somebody else assumes the position of president. It just happens that way. Now, will that be Scotty right now? I don't know. I hope he grows into it. Will it be a little bit of RJ? Will it be a little bit by committee? Will Scotty and RJ have to have a moment where, grabbing a taco or something, they're having a conversation and like, hey, you want to try to spark We the North Part 2? Let's do it. Bet. And, have that momentum. What I'm trying to say is to the fan base out there who's, just talking draft picks and just squash it for just do me a favor. Just don't talk about tanking for like at least a month. Just give it a chance. Give this team a chance, right? You might think it's too late, right? You might think it's too late, but I don't think it's too late. I think there's so much value to be had by trying, because in the pursuit of that, in the pursuit of winning, not at the expense of development. I'm not suggesting go out and play Otto Porter 30 minutes a night, bench Grady Dick. I'm not saying that. But in the pursuit of actually trying to win and go for something, you might just develop better habits than you would had you not aimed at that thing. It's very difficult to concede a season, 44, 45 games into the season and just, say, okay. But I have seen too many teams go down this road of tanking and then just tank forever, right? And then they can't stop tanking because the losing is just, it seeps into your culture. And I know there's a lot of people that say, no, there's plenty of examples of teams that do a 1-year tank. Are there so many teams that have been successfully able to be bad for 1 year? Look at the Toronto Raptors. I mean, the 1 year they were bad. Did they ever completely recover? Look at the team, after Kawhi Leonard left. How was that team so successful? You can say, yes, you had Marc Gasol. Yes, you had Serge Ibaka. You had continuity. You had winning habits. Do you know what a winning basketball team looks like at any level? AAU, high school, college, whatever. I know what it looks like. I've seen it. I can watch 1 minute of a basketball game and tell you that's a winning team, that's a losing team. Losing teams have bad body language. Winning teams have accountability. When they go to the bench, they listen to their coach. There's dial-in, there's buy-in, there's sacrifice, there's passing, there's making the extra pass. There's no predetermination of, oh, we're going to do this and then we're going to do this and this guy's going to get the shots. There's no, there's like what the Minnesota Timberwolves just did with Karl Anthony Towns, right? Like blowing that game, I believe against Charlotte, in which the last 2-minute report basically confirmed that there were 10 missed calls. In that entire thing, what did you really show with the 62 points? You showed that you are a losing team. You know, your leaders showed that they were losers. I think Joel Embiid showing up in, you know, his leopard skin, whatever, today after scoring 70 points, I think he's showing that he's a loser too. You know, these are losing habits. I think winning teams communicate on defense. Winning teams make the extra pass. Winning teams get back on defense. They don't just hang their head and fall out of bounds. These are things that losing teams do. Winning teams address problems in the locker room as they come up. These are habits. These are winning habits. And it's very easy to just say that the Charlotte Hornets suck because their roster sucks. But trust me, take some of those players out and put them into a different situation. Suddenly they're winning players again, you know? So this culture of losing that Masai Ujiri addressed when he hired Darko Rajakovic, the talking point of last season of the vibes, and people like to mock it. You know, they really like to mock it because they've never been in that locker room. They've never played the professional sport or played sports at any level. You know that there are certain teams where when the vibe is good, the shot feels better. The layups go in. It's like it's just momentum. You just have more juice in your legs, right? Scotty addressed it too. He talks about, you know, last year it was just depressing. It was kind of like hard to come to work sometimes, you know. He addressed it in the summer, you know, there was just this energy that was lacking. Well, look, you've countered that energy, and it wasn't an easy energy to just get out of the door, but you've gotten a lot of the people out of the door that had that energy. Look at what the Milwaukee Bucks are going through right now. You know, like they just fired their coach after being 30-13. It's not all about winning. It's how you're winning. It's how you're communicating. It's how you're gelling. And if you can look at that Milwaukee team, even at 30-13, you know there's no chance in how they're going to win a championship. That's why they fired the coach. Everyone's on them about it. No, man. You need buy-in. You need your star players to lead. You need your star players to be accountable. You know, you want to show me a losing team? Star player comes into the locker room and says, y'all suck. It's not my fault. Bam, losing team. Scotty's never going to do that. So the Raptors have a chance. They have a chance. So let's stop talking about draft picks for, you know, a month. Have some faith. It's probably going to be pretty bad. Pretty bad against the Clippers. But hopefully after that, they can get on the road. They can bond and pick up some surprise wins. And, you know, momentum is a strange thing. Do me a favor. Anything that you're putting off doing, taxes, workout, whatever, do it for 1 minute. Do it for 1 minute and see how much easier the second minute is. Winning is like anything else in life. It's a habit. Winners win. They say that, right? The Raptors have a lot of winners in this locker room. Scotty Barnes is a winner. RJ Barrett's a winner. These guys have won everywhere. Emmanuel Quickley is a winner. You've basically imported winning culture. Do you understand that? Do you understand what I'm saying? Jakob Poeltl is a winning player, right? Scotty Barnes is a winning player. These guys have winning habits. Bruce Brown just won a championship. Dennis Schroeder won. Like, he just won gold. Like, you see what they're doing, right? Darko Rajakovic was a very successful coach as an assistant last year. Weirdly enough, when he left, the winning left with him, right? It's not just him. Obviously, there's been a slew of health issues, Ja Morant, that whole thing, Dylan Brooks leaving. But man, I tell you, sometimes it's hard to act like a winner when you're losing. It is. It's much easier to give in to the record, give in to the scoreboard. But I think what this team is slowly starting to develop is that maturity that good teams have, which is hold your head high like a champion, hold your head high like a winner, even when you're losing. That even when you're 10 games under 500, go out and do all the right things. Don't become the Detroit Pistons or the Charlotte Hornets or the Washington Wizards, especially the Washington Wizards. Don't go out and just be like gunning for numbers and stuff like that. Don't do, you know, the Raptors last year were like that. They had a lot of losing habits. There was tons of bad body language. There was no accountability. You had a leader, whatever the hell, you know, coming out every single day and talking about his younger teammates and how the offense wasn't, you know, funky lineups and all that stuff. These were all losing habits. You had a max player saying, it's not my job, it's not my responsibility, I don't need to be these guys' psychologists. All that shit is gone. And I believe those are all losing habits. I believe those are all hallmarks of losing teams. Bad body language, bad, court awareness, guys yelling at each other on the court, Gary Trent Jr. like throwing his arms up. Look, man, I'm not saying it's all perfect, but you've implemented a lot of guys who do nothing but win. Thaddeus Young, that's a winning player, right? Garrett Temple, Otto Porter. These guys have won a lot in their lives, and they understand what it takes to win. So I hope this team bonds over this 3 days. I hope it's magical for them. I hope all of this practice time and the reps that they get, the communication, hopefully some tough conversations that they have. I hope it renews the juice in their legs. All-Star weekend will be very important. I think this is a pretty tired team. I think this is, especially Scotty, you're seeing like a lot of the short jumpers and a lot of the exhaustion. If he doesn't make the All-Star game, which he could, he might not, he might, probably won't. The Raptors record is pretty bad, but maybe he gets voted in by the coaches. Maybe that's the time for him to recoup. And then, I've said it many times, Scotty hates losing. He hates losing enough that when his team is losing, he goes out and plays center and gets 6 blocks and career high. Wait till you see what this guy's willing to do to make sure this is not a losing season, because I can tell you just from talking to Brian today, it doesn't feel like they're conceding the season at all. So, yeah. Let's get some comments here. I see he's fine, but being a guy on the ball court and having some bad vibe, and it shows because you see things differently than the others. I get it, but he has shown a bit of attitude. I'm not really sure who you're addressing. Scotty? Sorry, John, I'm not fully understanding. Consider his age, John. Yeah, millionaire getting. See, John, I don't mean to blast you or call you out, but it seems like, anytime someone starts out a conversation, counting somebody else's money, he's one of, like Scotty Barnes. I'm assuming you're talking about Scotty. He's one of the top 25 to 30 basketball players in the world at the age of 22. Would you do that for free? Or do you believe that that's something that deserves to be compensated? He makes $8 million. My analytics tell me he's worth around 40. Can you imagine a guy being $32 million underpaid? Because that's kind of what he is right now. He goes out and plays two-way for you. He plays 5 positions for you. And then we got to deal with the stupid shit like this, right? And then we got to deal with, no offense, people like you saying, oh, well, but he makes millions of dollars and he has stinky attitude. Bro, come on, man. I've gotten better at, I want to say, like, dealing with comments like this, right? But it never stops surprising me when I meet the people, because I've actually had a chance to meet some of the people who say these things, and they look so similar. When I talked about like winning people, like winning habits, winning mentality, winning to me is accountability. Show me a loser and I'll show you someone who doesn't own up to their mistakes. Show me a loser and I'll show you someone who doesn't evolve, someone who doesn't learn, someone who's not curious. His trainer, Brian Macon, I knew from our first conversation that guy was a winner, like a winner in life. Masai Ujiri, I met Masai Ujiri when he was an assistant general manager before all the hype and whatever, man. 5 seconds of talking to that guy, you're like, whoa, this is a winner. I was a kid. I was like, what, 20, 19 or whatever? I was like 19 or 20 years old at the time, right? You can tell with some people. And I can tell with you. No offense. Yeah. Again, this is neither here nor there. No one is denying that he has growing pains and he's going to have to evolve as a leader and he's going to have to do this and do that, right? It doesn't, of course, there's so many 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds. I think maybe the best thing to do would be to look back on your own life. For me, I look back on my own life at the age of 22. What were we doing, right? Were we the leaders of men? Did our bad days or good days or, what we said to our teammate or how we reacted to a teammate calling us out, did that go on the Toronto Star, Toronto Sun? Imagine, if someone had taken you at your worst moment and put you on a newspaper. I think it's crazy. Dude, Rob, the other day you were saying plus minus doesn't mean anything. You don't even look like you can play ball. Then the next day you're saying plus minus matters. Okay, so plus minus, as in like in the box score, doesn't matter to me. Box plus minus is different, right? Now, I don't look like I can play ball. Cool, man. That's cool. I can, but cool. I got to say, looking at some of your comments, Makes me think of a Chris Broussard meme, which I won't say out loud, but it's like, just show us your shooting form. Oh my God, John, how small are you? Yikes. You weird, man. You weird. Anyways, I mean, publicly being called a loser is not fun for anyone, so I empathize with you as well. You're probably having an existential crisis. You're probably thinking about everything you didn't do with your life, and it sucks. I get it. But at the end of the day, like, it's a 22-year-old kid, and he makes $8 million, and you can either be celebratory of that, you can celebrate it, or you can be envious of it, criticize it, and do whatever. No one is arguing that he's a perfect leader. I'll be the first person to say he definitely needs to stop complaining to the refs. He definitely needs to, maintain more of a composure. But like, I've noticed something with the Pascal stuff, and sometimes it's a good moment to just reflect, right? When you see somebody else doing something that other people have accused you of doing, you get a different perspective on it. And one of the things I've noticed with Pascal stuff is how misguided some of the support can be. There's no admission that it can have a bad game, right? So, like, if he's having 3 bad games in Indiana, they can't just say, oh, it's 3 bad games in Indiana. He's played poorly. They have to create the excuse in the narrative. And if I did the same thing last year with Scotty, where I just couldn't admit that he was having a bad game, I apologize. This year, I think I've been a hell of a lot more fair, right? I don't understand. Is this directed to me or to somebody else? I have no idea what's going on with the chat, man. What I will say is that I hope that this can be a pretty positive community. Dude, you look at the bags around your eyes. You're 42. Looks like you're going to have a heart attack. Plus, I entered into the stream hearing you complain about body language. Ooh. Do I look 42 to you? I got ID checked like 3 years ago. So, I mean, sure. I'm 36, by the way, not 42. You wanted to take something out of context and act like you're Scotty Barnes, number 1. What's SY? I'm curious. Yeah. Block that guy. No, man, you could rant off by yourself. Anyways, I think this is about as well as I've ever handled someone this ridiculous in my life. So this is growth. This is progress. Hopefully, we live up to the billing of evolution. Anyways, ending this note, it takes a winner to know a winner. I think it sometimes takes, that. And I think watching some of Pascal Siakam's most staunch defenders like go overboard and trying to defend him and create all these narratives about like, okay, well, it's a new system, it's this or that. It seems sometimes disingenuous. Like people kind of like reveal what their modus is. Like, for instance, like Scotty Barnes came out last year and had a terrible, shooting season. And there was a lot of talk about didn't work hard enough, but they didn't do that with Pascal, right? Things of that nature where it's like the bias starts to show and it starts to lean. And it shows that I don't take people who have such strong biases very seriously as analysts. And so allowing my own bias to, allowing my own bias to taint my basketball analysis is bad. It's bad. Like, it's just bad. It's bad practice. And I felt so strongly that I had to defend Scotty last year because I felt there was such a pylon, but I felt like it made me a weaker analyst because I didn't want to talk about his bad games. I would just kind of brush over it. I'd be like, if Scotty had a bad game, it'd be like, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, Scotty didn't play that well. Let's move on. I didn't want to pile on to it because I kind of had a lot of empathy for a 21-year-old trying his best in this completely dog shit system that was there last year. This year, I think that was a very big concerted effort on my part coming into this year, especially, even towards the end of last year, I wanted to be a little bit more fair because Brian had said, like, hey, man, if he has bad games, I need you to call it. Like, it needs to be fair. And I think that that's been great. I think this channel has been very fairly critical of his bad games. I think it's been very complimentary of his good games. I think we've kind of leaned both ways. We started out very complimentary of Pascal Siakam buying in. We were very critical of his screen setting and his boxing out. So there's a lot of stuff like that, right? Oh, the troll left. That's good. I think. I hope. I don't know. James saying most people don't understand the competitive nature athletes have, and the ones that want to be great, it's all consuming. Remember LeBron leaving the court when he loses. Yeah, Scotty did the same thing. Scotty did the same thing in the playoffs. Year one against the Sixers, he left. And when he was asked by the media, like, why didn't you stick around? He just said, I don't know. And I just thought that was like, that's exactly who he is, right? So anyways, I think that this team has developed some great winning habits on the court. Hopefully they can shore up some of the defense. I think Darko mentioned that they did a lot of defensive drills today and trying to like learn how to call switches. And it's really difficult to play new guys into your system like Bruce Brown, and they don't really know what you're doing. So they're just going on instinct, and you see breakdowns everywhere, right? So I think that anyone expecting us to be bad this year, you might be right. You might be right. And I might be totally wrong. And maybe I'm delusional. And I'm just hopeful that this team will have an opportunity to be in the play-in and potentially even compete in the playoffs. Man, it would be my dream to see this team go and be an 8th seed and just try to be competitive against Boston. I don't know, win a game. That would be great. Anything more than that would be super cherry on top, right? And I think we as a fan base would really appreciate that. That would be awesome. But I don't think that there's any chance in hell this is going to be a bad team next year. Like, I feel like there's too many things that will go right. And I think when you listen to that interview with Brian Macon, Scotty's trainer, that drops hopefully tomorrow at some point. I don't want to drop it on Friday because there's a game on Friday. I want the content to really blow up and have like, because that was my beef last year. Like we did a great interview with Brian. It was like an hour long and it got like 8,000 views. I'm like, shit, you know, like I need this to get wider, get further, right? So I hope that we can drop it tomorrow. I think when you hear that, you'll see like the type of player he's trying to be next year is the type of player that you get like contender status with. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be better than Julius Randle next year. In my opinion, he's going to be better than Jalen Brunson. I think he might. Yeah, I think he's going to be better than I think he might be a top 5 player in the East next year. So if you have that, then really it's just the pieces around him, right? So hopefully we're not going to have a short-sighted coach who's going to compromise development, but also I believe in the prioritization of development and building good habits that the winning will be done almost by accident. That's my hope. That's my hope. And let's see if it happens. And I can pull up this live when the Raptors are like 22 games under 500 and be like, wow, I was so stupid. I can't believe I thought they were going to be good, or I thought they had a chance to be good. But let's see. I think maybe, fingers crossed. I hope so. Yeah. James Sorensen saying, what would it take to pursue Herb Jones, or what would it take to get Herb Jones? I think I posted earlier in a live, I posted this trade, Herb Jones, Larry Nance for Bruce Brown and 3 first-round picks. I think that would be pretty much what gets it done. I know some people might say, whoa, 3 first-round picks for Herb Jones. That's crazy. It's really not that crazy. He's a really valuable player. Again, I'll flash this as well. These are some other defenders. They're not Herb Jones. Like 6 of these guys are not Herb Jones, but I think they have like positive defensive metrics. There's another player that I really, really like defensively, and that's Peyton Watson for the Denver Nuggets. I just don't think they're going to give him up. Worth noting, there's the Thinking Basketball video that I highly encourage people to watch, and it's about how good rookies are nowadays. And I think while I was watching that video, just like 5 minutes before I started this live, and I was like, shit, I don't have enough time to finish this video. What I think is possible also, if the Raptors do hold on to all these draft picks, is given where they probably will be picking in the draft, might they get a few more Brandon Pajimskis and Jaime Jaquez's as opposed to Scotty Barnes and Grady Dix, which is not to say that drafting underclassmen or drafting, freshmen is necessarily a bad thing, but could they go for the more Julian Strother, Trace Jackson Davis. Like, could they look at guys who are already pretty good? Like a guy like Herb Jones, he was a contributor on day one. OG Anunoby, completely different situation. He was a contributor on day one too, but he was young. I think like these later picks, because of team control for the 4 years, they offer like a really unique path to getting rotation players. And again, like I think Emmanuel Quickley is going to be a much better player next year. I think RJ is going to be a much better player next year. You know, like there's a lot of pressure in playing in New York. I feel like RJ plays with pressure. I think it's going to be a lot lighter. And again, development doesn't show up. Just like, you know, me doing that think tank for COVID-19, that didn't show up right away. It was in the months that followed that I could really, really feel that. You know, I could feel the effect of it. So anyways, I say that to say that I expect a better second half for the Raptors than the first half. And I hope that that results in playing. Yeah. All right. Take care. And okay. Also, I'm going to go back and find, sorry. Larry, thanks a lot for the support there, man. I'm just going to go back and find John and his comments. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Okay, here we go. Ban user, delete their comments. I didn't want to do that before, but I felt a really strong need to do it now. And thanks a lot. Appreciate it. SG saying, I don't want a second better half. Dude, at the end of the day, you got to be good next year, right? Scotty's way too good to tank for Cooper Flag. I think RJ might be too good next year. Emmanuel Quickley, Jakob Poeltl if he sticks around. You got draft picks coming in. You got cap space. You're not going to be bad enough to be as bad as Detroit's and Charlotte's, right? So honestly, you have to consider the consequences of not conveying this pick now is that you will have to convey it later. This is like not doing your taxes. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can put it off, but eventually you get arrested, right? So therein lies the point. Like, you should try to convey this now in a weaker draft, regardless of how hype you can get yourself about Alex Sarr or, you know, one of the top prospects. The odds and the math on it are so limited that the chances of you actually communicating a really high pick to the Spurs and also not developing winning habits and also kind of like killing your brand. I mean, there are fair weather fans in Toronto that are not going to support a losing product. So from an MLSC standpoint right now, if I'm MLSC, I'm totally saying like, yo, you guys gotta get some momentum. If nothing else, don't you want that solid momentum going into the offseason so these guys don't, you know, identity is a weird thing. I don't want to like harp on this too much, but like you identify as a team that lost like 60 games or 50 games, it can wear on you a little bit. It changes how you work out a little bit. It shouldn't, but it does. So you don't want the identity to seep in of we're a losing team, we're losers. Because trust me, the Detroit Pistons, under no circumstance, under no reason, under God's witness, they should not be as bad as they are. But they have an identity as a losing team. And so losing teams lose. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think, you know, if Larry was still here, I wish you can just call in and just explain it. But like being a winner is a mindset. You know, it is a self-fulfilling prophecy of being a winning team, being a winning player. And, you know, it doesn't happen overnight. And the odds of you kind of tanking this season and then just turning a magic pill next year and being this great team next year that's going to compete for the playoffs, it just doesn't happen that way. You need to start implementing those habits now. And to look at this season as a lost season is misguided. You should look at it as almost like a ramp up for next season. And if you end up winning a whole bunch of games and end up making the plan, say la vie. I think that should be the mentality. I wish I could have said this in like 2 minutes and ended this live, but apparently, you know, I had to egg it on for an hour and 33 minutes until I figured out where I was going with this. Let me just flash this on the screen one last time. To those of you who don't know, this is coming out tomorrow. Maybe some people who saw it in the beginning aren't going to see it at the end. This is totally coming
up. It's been
up.
a while since we had a conversation. Context has changed. Team has changed. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you? Congratulations on your success.
As we talked about off air, nothing yet.
I think you're your temperament is a lot better this year. We like you, and that could be a metric that shows why your channel is growing so much this year because your temperament is so much better.
Definitely coming out, man. Like, I can't wait. I love that conversation so much. There's so much I learned. I think it's so funny, and yeah, I really appreciate Brian for doing that. He's like, sometimes watches these live, sometimes he'll like throw in a super chat every now and again. He's super cool, man, and I'm really happy Scotty has him, and I'm really proud of both of them. See you guys. Have a good one. Thanks for joining us. I'm off to pen dance planning, and apparently, I got to do something with these bags under my eyes and the pending heart attack. What a shitty thing to put on someone. Crazy. All right. Make sure to hit subscribe. I think we're like super close to 8,100. Is that going to happen? Are we going to hit like 10,000 subscribers before pen dance? That would be super cool. Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers.